why do we go to this like nasty place? And I want to say it's this survival, it's this threat detection system, it's our limbic system really, but it's saying, we're going to lose this relationship and you better do something. You better kick into whatever you've always done. So it's trying to protect us really.
Connecting couples with the real Emhoffs.
Hi, I'm Chad Emhoff.
And I'm Angela Emhoff, and we're really excited to be bringing you our 4th series. We started this earlier this summer, really just as a therapy companion, as a resource for couples that we wanted to help have more connecting conversations, and it's been going really well. We've been having a really good time, and we've really enjoyed the feedback that we're getting from couples who are actually listening to the podcast and having the conversations that we're suggesting.
I mean, we're both shocked. People are actually listening to this. I know. It's true. But we're getting great feedback. We've got lots of emails and people rating us and all those things, and it feels really nice to get that feedback and to know that we're helping people.
Appreciate it, and that's why we're excited to bring you this series, which is the anatomy of a fight. We started with the basics, where we really just kind of laid out who's the pursuer, who's the withdrawer, some of these roles that show up in the energy around the interaction. We talked about the cycles that we get into and the deeper longings that we have to actually connect. I think that's the thing we keep trying to really emphasize, is that we have a longing to connect, to have a more secure relationship. But man, things happen. We misinterpret messages. We get sideways. We talked about that in our Staying Tuned In series about how we send sometimes a different message than we really mean to. And then we brought you the anatomy of a repair, really talking about how to come back and do a corrective move to fix what went wrong. But now we're going to break it down. Why do we fight? Episode 1 of The Anatomy of Repair.
All right, thanks. It is exciting to talk about this. I know that fights are something that are almost inevitable. We're not going to ever not have these responses. I think if you stop fighting, if you stop pushing, if you stop kind of pushing on each other, you're probably not having much of a relationship. Yeah, that's disengagement. That's not what we want. And yet sometimes we get into these places where we fight and it really sucks. It's like, we almost say, what do we even do? We kind of throw our hands up and want to walk away or something. And they do. They feel awful and yet so familiar for all of us.
Just kind of emphasize again, we've talked about this in actually, I think, every series that we've done. And that is that the goal isn't that we're never going to fight again. It's almost impossible with two humans that are interacting with each other with all of the experiences and opinions and ideas and just everything and anything that we bring to the table, to be aligned all the time feels impossible and is impossible.
It is, yeah.
And so the idea there is to try to understand each other more, so that when we do fight, when something does come up that just feels yuck, that we can come back to it, understand it more, and actually do that repair move we talked about in our last series. But we really do want to break down. We had a great email this week, actually, from a couple that said, we're listening, we understand our roles, we're more articulate or have more words around some of these things. But man, when we get in the middle of a fight and it is hot and heavy and yuck, we just cannot slow it down. Help. What do we do? And so it was timely, because we had already kind of queued this up.
I want to just say, once you're in the middle of it, you got, this is tough. I mean, this is not an easy thing to slow down. And once that ball's rolling, it's really, really tough for anyone to stop it, because there are a lot of things at work once we get into a fight. So as we were discussing this and talking about that, and by that I mean that conversation, that email, we were like, why do we fight? Why do we go down these roads that seemed anybody want to fight, just enjoy the fight?
No.
Most of us don't. We might enjoy, debate, or we might enjoy maybe even a mild argument here and there if we don't agree, because we don't agree a lot of the time you and I don't agree.
But I do like kind of a intense conversation where I'm being challenged to consider something new. You are that is fun.
That is fun for me too.
That is
I like
different.
Different than
what we're talking about.
That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is an actual hey, I'm hurt by this, or you're hurt by this. And it's funny because so many times people want to say, oh, this is about this thing, it's
content.
It could be some content.
We fight about sex, or we fight about money, or we fight about
really
family,
what we're talking about isn't that. I mean, we can debate. You and I can debate politics and a whole range of things I won't even dive into. But the truth is, at the end of the day, we can debate those things, but it only really gets nasty when one of us really feels hurt.
Yeah.
Right. When something really happens inside of us that says, this is not okay. This is not, we kind of escalate, we activate, we go to a different place. And I know that you and I we talk about this a lot. So like, I know my like cues, I know my triggers, I know the way that I look and act, and you look and act, all those things. And we can kind of see it happen into each other. But neither one of us ever really wants that kind of fight to happen. Right. Because it does. It drives a wedge between us. There's this distance, this coldness, and then it's like, even in some of our fights we'll describe, like laying in bed together can even feel bad. It's like this, that we feel this distance between us.
Road
that just
trips
is so
are the
nasty.
worst for fights.
Yep.
But I think, Chad, I just want to kind of clarify what you're saying. It's
Thank
this
you.
idea that it's not that we're just having a disagreement. It's not that we just can't, you want hamburgers, I want pizza, or something like that. Yeah. It really is when these cycles get out of hand or get to a place where we're hurt, then it sinks down below the surface of the content. The surface is the content. It sinks down below into this, you're not hearing me, respecting me, valuing me. I don't have a good contribution. Whatever it is, there are these deeper meanings that we really want to get into. And so let's kind of break down, if we slow it down, what happens? How does, if I had a remote control, first of all, if we had remote controls and we could just like stop the fight, that'd be great. We don't. But let's pretend we did for a second and we could kind of stop, rewind, slow motion. What happens in these fights?
Well, Ange, I think whenever things go wrong, we have a visceral response.
Yeah.
You and I debate something and we're just debating or talking about a topic. That's fine. But it really goes wrong when our body kind of comes online and kind of freaks us out.
Yeah.
Like you almost feel like the blood go away from your head and you're ready to have like this.
I feel like the blood comes to my head and I get red
it's
hot.
totally opposite for me. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, where are we? I'm confused. I'm lost. Why all of a sudden it's bigger than just a debate. Now it's become maybe like, it feels as though it's a personal attack. It's like there's something really heavy happening. And so this is kind of this limbic response. It's like a survival tactic that our body kind of knows, hey, I need to be a part of this group, this relationship, this herd, my family is important to me, right? And I believe that we're designed with that in us. I believe that God put that in us to say, hey, this is something that you need to protect. We need this to survive. And so whenever we're in a bad conversation, my body kicks up and says, no, we've got to protect this. How do we do that? How do we keep this relationship safe? And what are the moves that you make to keep you close to the person around you, to the person that's important to you?
I kind of download the expertise that you bring to the table. We think
differently.
Yeah, we do, which is I think why this works. It's like you explain it and then I go, okay, in my brain, it's like translating Chad's,
thoughts. Yeah, I get it.
The cognitive part of it. And I go, what does it feel like? So we're in an interaction and then somehow my body or your body, it happens either way, but somehow my body registers there's a threat to the conversation is going smoothly and then all of a sudden it's not going smoothly and something is being threatened. Yep. I don't know that we can always pinpoint what is being threatened, but all of a sudden it's like there's this alert that happens and our body goes, wait a minute, this isn't as smooth, something has gone wrong. And it's interesting because when we ask couples that we're working with, can you tell when your partner is mad at you? A lot of them can say yes. And we'll say, okay, then what is if it's going fine and then it's not going fine, what is the shift? What has happened? What do you observe? What do you see that cues you that it is no longer good? And because that cue is what our body takes in that says, uh-oh, now it's unsafe. Yeah. There's a threat. And so what happens is our limbic system is what Chad is saying. We kick into this, I need to kind of position to protect myself because whatever's happening is about to go bad and I need to be protected. And then if we're in this interaction, Chad will go, uh-oh, it just got unsafe. Her protection's up, which means his protection's going to go up. And now it's not even the same interaction.
And this happens so fast.
So fast.
I mean, it's like we can go from having a conversation about where we want to eat to all of a sudden we're in a fight.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know if I think this happens to every couple out there anyway. Like we don't even know what we started the fight about.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's like all of a sudden we're like extremely passionate about something. And it's clearly not about Chinese
tone
food or
has
whatever.
Shifted, or loudness or volume has shifted.
And now we're in this nasty fight where we're like, both of us kind of leave it feeling so awful. And
what just happened?
And exactly, that's what we're trying to like break down. Like, why do we go to this like nasty place? And I want to say it's this survival, it's this threat detection system, it's our limbic system really, but it's saying, we're gonna lose this relationship, and you better do something. You better kick into whatever you've always done. So it's trying to protect us, really.
I want to say, because, when I first started hearing this, I'm going to call it material, or this idea.
The idea, yeah, sure.
That you just said, we're going to lose the relationship. Golly, that feels dramatic. Like, if we're having a conversation about the dishes, is it true that my body thinks if this conversation goes wrong, we're going to lose the relationship?
Well, Angela, I would say that if it's not true,
I know the answer to this. It's an unfair question.
If it's not true, then why are you so passionate about the dishes all of a sudden?
I know. It's so passionate.
Or is it? And it maybe it's not
is.
the relationship at that moment, like, because we don't have awareness around it.
Yeah.
But there is this kind of like, oh my gosh, this is really, really bad, and this is a real threat to me, to my identity in relation, because our identity is found in part where we are, who we relate to.
Yeah.
And so part of our identity, so part of who we are is there.
I think that it's important to just kind of make it really clear, though, that when you're first listening to this, for me, definitely the pursuer, the early stages of me really understanding these concepts of deeper attachment and deeper longing and want to connect and be heard and be, and valued and all that.
Yeah.
I would have argued for a long time that it was the content. It was just the dishes. It is just put your shoes away. It is just the fight about the money. And if you could just listen to me, it'd be fine. There is this belief that if you just take my side, or if I just take your side, it's going to be fine. So this can be, I think it was for me, a hard concept to go, are you telling me that every time we get into these fights that there's something deeper going on? Yes.
Yeah, I am.
That is
and I want to work through that on my side a little bit if I can. And this isn't to refute you at all, but I'm like, I similarly, I would have said, okay, fine. You think it's going to work better if we do the money that way? Let's do the money that way.
Yeah.
And then after it fails, we'll do it my way again.
Oh.
Like, it's like there's this kind of like placating thing that's like, okay, yeah, it is about the money, and it's about your need to feel important or understood. And I'm like, I don't get that. Like, I'm like, okay, fine, do it that way, but it won't work. But I can't say that to you as a withdrawer, so to speak. Like, so what do I do? I just kind of give in and go along.
Go along.
And I don't mean it.
I
right?
hate it.
Yeah. And so then we're like in this nasty fight.
Absolutely.
And yet, it's funny because I can say all the right words. I can say, yeah, I agree. We should do it that way. And you can know I'm not telling them.
I'm so mad.
Yeah. Because your body registers that threat.
Yes.
You see it as like, oh my gosh, he's placating me again. Or, oh my gosh, he's just going along to get along, and he's not even engaged with me. Does he even know what I'm talking about?
So here's the funny thing is that if you are placating me, and I know it, which I do and you do, and then I call you out on the placating, that makes it even worse.
Well, because now I'm caught.
Now I'm attacking your character.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about this is obviously we're pitching the anatomy of a fight. We're really trying to set up that while we do get into these riffs about the content is just the door we walk through to get deeper into the space.
Yeah.
To get deeper into what is going on. Why do the dishes matter? Why does the money matter? Why is this all of a sudden obviously a more heated, heavy interaction? Is because then we've started to include what Chad is saying, identity, or just my contribution to our relationship. Is it valued, respect, all those things? Yeah. It can be really tricky. Chad had mentioned when we were planning for this that there are so many books out there. I remember, part of our story is we've both been married before, both failed at our first marriages, and so we both have a divorce. And I remember being in my first marriage, reading all the books, trying so hard, like a good pursuer does when things are going bad. Reading the Love and Respect book, reading the Love Languages book, reading all of the what's my personality and his personality, trying. And the hard part about that is there was still something missing when I had all that content.
Yeah, well, the content doesn't solve the hurt.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, even if we say, oh, well, love language, if you would just speak my love language, then I would be fine. And I'm not knocking love languages. I think it's a great idea if you're in a good place.
They're really good resources for people who are already in a great place. But when if you're desperate,
in a tough place, or even in the midst of a fight, to understand, and that's what we're trying to do this series, to try to understand, why is it that we fight? And why is it that we're so passionate about, I think you were saying this earlier, about these things that are nothing.
Yeah.
Like I get it if you're fighting about like your kids or moving to Alaska, or, somebody's gambling or had an affair or something. Those fights, I'm heavy. That's pretty heavy content areas.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it still goes back to how we feel about ourselves. But when we fight about Chinese food on Tuesday night and feel disrespected and like maybe we should give up the relationship, that is always connected to this thing that we're talking about. Yeah. That's always connected to this. And heck, if I don't work with a couple every week who has a fight about something that they don't even remember what they were fighting about.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is important. It's important content for us to be able to go, wait a minute. And this is why I want to back into that a little bit.
Yes.
Like I want to say the content, I only use the content
to get deeper,
to get to the wound.
Into the space.
It's like doing an inspection on someone if you go get a physical, right? Or if remember when you had your appendix out? Oh, I'll bring that up.
Thanks.
But the doctor has to go poke on you a little bit. And then he releases it real quick, and that's when it hurts, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm doing this thing. I'm testing this thing. I'm using the content to say, where is the pain? And what does the pain feel like? Is it pain when I push in,
like
or is it pain when I release?
HIPAA because you shared my personal
you're my
medical.
Wife. Can I have permission?
Yes, you do. I had an appendectomy. It was really painful.
I don't feel like that's a super
invasive.
Now I'm going to be in trouble.
But I really love, Chad, what you're describing here, because on one hand, we're saying the fight isn't about the content, but on the other side of that, we're saying in order for you to get into what it's really about, you have to go through the content.
Yeah.
So we have to say, what do you fight about? If you, as the couple who are listening to this right now, go, wait a minute, what are our biggest content or topics that we have a hard time navigating? Sometimes it's sex, sometimes it's money. We brought them up. I've worked with people where trying to make big purchases is a hard deal. Big decisions. They were considering buying a house. That was a hard thing to do. A remodel.
Hard thing to do.
Put a couple into a canoe on a canoe trip, and you really see how it kind of navigates.
For sure.
But the idea then is, when you're in that content, what does it feel like when you misread? What starts happening, like Chad is saying, in your body when you start to go, this just went wrong? And that is really where we're going to break down over these next few episodes. We're going to break down some of our own fights. We're really going to kind of give you some clear examples about how to go, here is what happens, and then here is what happens, and then here is what happens. We still want to make sure we're clear. It doesn't mean you're going to stay. Our goal is not to keep you from ever fighting. Our goal is to help you understand what is happening between you, but also what is happening within you. And if you can get clear about both of those things, the within and the between, and start having some a better awareness of that, man, it really can shift how quickly we're able to return from these fights, and even in the moment, what our understanding of what's happening is.
Definitely. And so that's kind of a good place for us to kind of start wrapping up, I think. And I just want to say, we really do want to make sure that we meet people where they are, and we meet you where you are.
Yeah.
And so if something we're saying doesn't land well for you, or if you're saying, no, this content area is more than that, or I think we mentioned this at the top of this, but if these fights, if going into these places is really hard for you in your relationship, I want to encourage you to reach out for help.
Get a therapist.
Don't dive into these worst spots in your life if it sends you down a nasty road. Get somebody to help you with it. Get somebody to help engage in your relationship, and find somebody who can help you navigate some of these spots that really hurt.
We had this connect point. We're going to kind of bring a connect point in, and this is our connect point where we actually give you the topic to talk about. And I believe that we had one similar when we did the basics, because we really wanted to try to understand what the cycle was. But our connect point for this first episode of the series, Why Do We Fight?, is to see if you can identify that thing that lets you or your body know something has just shifted.
Yeah.
So maybe for Chad and I, we share that he says I do a thing with my lips, or for Chad, I'll say he slow blinks, and that lets us know the tone has just shifted in the room, and it's gone from things are fine to things are not fine. Because that's when that protection comes up, and that's when we start kind of shifting how we're interacting. It's no longer smooth, but now, something's really gone wrong. If we can identify the moment where it switches from an interaction to a fight, it really can change how we're able to talk about why we fight and what we're doing. And so that's your connect point for this topic. See if you can have a conversation with your partner about how you know. Our question is, how do you know when it's gone wrong?
So I just want to say thanks for listening to us today. If you really liked what we did, if you really are enjoying our podcast, we'd love for you to, rate us, give us a review, send us a message, shoot us an email, because we want to engage with you. We want to help in any way that we can. And if you share us with somebody else that's a friend or a colleague or somebody that you think, hey, this could help, this has helped our relationship, maybe this could help them, we really appreciate that.
If you want to read more about us, our mission, our story, you can check out our website at www.therealmhoffs.com.
Thanks so much for listening.